Well, we're still in Haiti. And Paul is there. Let me show you Paul. Here is Paul.
Hi, Leslie.
Oh, good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Sorry,
I
Della,
am-
we're taking over your class.
She's
Paul and Moreau used to live in Tucson, and then they've been pioneering Tahiti for. How are you?
no Haiti, not Tahiti. Haiti.
I said Haiti, not
Della.
Tahiti.
This is Leslie.
Okay, Della is not going to go in Zoom.
Yes, that's Zoom.
This is Zoom.
Yeah, I am on Zoom.
Okay.
No, Haiti, not Tahiti. Haiti. I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna get my earphones. Yes, that's Zoom.
Ala pa Della? Apa Naim?
How are you?
Fine, how are you?
I'm
You're
gonna
most
be right
welcome.
back. I'm gonna get my earphones.
Ala pa Della? Ala pa
Hikmat is not coming?
He's making tea.
Yeah.
Very
it's
cold
good.
over here.
I always get the, I mean, this Zoom IDs last minute, you know, I just got it before half an hour. Yeah. Hikmat is not coming?
He's making tea.
Yeah.
Very
it's
cold
good.
over here.
I always get I mean, this Zoom ID last minute, you know, I just got it before half an hour. Hikmat is not coming?
Yeah? J'espère.
Oh, this is live on YouTube, so that's why their voice is echoing.
Yeah?
It's live on YouTube, so
I'm sorry?
that's why their voice is echoing.
I cannot hear very well for some reason. Maybe that's better. Go ahead.
Live on YouTube, so
I'm sorry?
that's why their voice is echoing.
I cannot hear very well for some reason. Maybe that's better. Go ahead.
Live on YouTube, so
I'm sorry?
that's why their voice is echoing.
I cannot hear very well for some reason. Maybe that's better. Go ahead.
Live on YouTube, so
I'm sorry?
that's why their voice is echoing.
Hear very well. Maybe that's better. Go ahead.
Live on YouTube, so
I'm sorry?
that's why their voice is echoing. Okay, everybody, I have muted everybody. I'm actually running this, doing a live stream on YouTube. I'm going to post the link for that on Facebook. So if anybody I have muted everybody. I'm actually prefer to do that. Doing a live stream on YouTube. I'm going
Hold on just a minute. I'm having a technical problem.
Link for that on Facebook. So if anybody I have muted everybody. All right, I think I have resolved the technical problem. Let me just share the link for YouTube, and then we will begin. Bear with me just one moment longer. Sorry, there are people coming on saying that they don't have the link, so I will just quickly share that. Okay, sorry for the slight delay. Can everybody hear me? Just if somebody nods. Yes, all right. Welcome everybody. I'm delighted to have you here today. The 82nd anniversary of the passing of Queen Marie of Romania. A very sad day for Romania, but no doubt a very joyous welcome awaited her awaited her soul in the next world. Okay, are you all hearing okay? Is there no background noise anymore? Very good. Okay. So I've never actually done this before in terms of using Zoom and live streaming to YouTube. So it's a learning experience, and hopefully as many people as possible can participate in this presentation. So one of the things that has been quite challenging over the years after I wrote the book about Queen Marie was how to speak about her, especially to people who had read the book, so that the information that I presented would not be static or boring. And so what I have done is I have put together a small collection of photographs to illustrate some of the things regarding the life of Queen Marie and her relationship with the Baha'i faith. Now, I do see a list of participants, but I don't really have time to go through them. So I don't know whether there are people participating who are not Baha'is. In case they are, maybe I could ask my good friend Leslie King to go into the chat and write the link for the Baha'i official Baha'i website, so that anybody who wishes for more information can get that. Then at the end, maybe we can, if you have some questions, you can write them in the chat. But while I'm doing the presentation, I'm not going to allow any spoken questions, because it just becomes too complicated. So just bear with me for the duration of the presentation, and then we can take questions afterwards. So I will share my screen now. And I'm hoping that everybody will be able to see that. Yes, so. Okay, for those of you who arrived a little bit later, welcome to everybody. I'm going to begin the presentation now. There are a few slides that contain some text which I may go over perfunctorily and perhaps make available in another way so that it doesn't take too long. I haven't actually timed this presentation, so I'm not sure how long it will take, but there are quite a number of slides, and I hope you will enjoy this presentation. So welcome to the 82nd anniversary of the passing of Queen Marie of Romania. This presentation is based on the research that I did on the book that I wrote, Her Eternal Crown, Queen Marie of Romania and the Baha'i Faith, which was published by George Ronald in the year 2000. And I have recently published an abridged version in Romanian, which should become available in the next few months in English, probably initially in ebook form. So Queen Marie was the granddaughter of Queen Victoria, who was known as Her Majesty Victoria by the grace of God of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, Queen Defender of the Faith, Empress of India. This is the letter that was, the tablet that was addressed by Baha'u'llah to Queen Victoria. Baha'u'llah, the prophet founder of the Baha'i faith, addressed all of the leaders of the world that were living at during his time. And this is one of the tablets which I will not read in its entirety, but I will make available to anybody who is interested. And it can be found in Summons of the Lord of Hosts. This is a family tree relating to Princess Marie. So you can see here that her grandparents were Victoria and Albert, and her father and mother were Alfred, the second son of Queen Victoria, and Marie, daughter of the Tsar of Russia. And Marie was the second child of that union, the first child being Alfred, a boy. So Marie was the first child, the second child, first daughter, and she had 3 sisters. So a bit of background, Queen Victoria married Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha on the 10th of February. That should be 1840. And this is the royal family, Victoria and Albert, with their 9 children. Prince Alfred, Duke of Edinburgh, the father of Queen Marie as a young man. And Marie was also the granddaughter of Tsar Alexander II. His Imperial Majesty, the Emperor and Autocrat of all the Russias. This is part of the tablet to the Tsar of Russia.
Sorry, I can't do that. You're not listening to the music app.
Sorry about that. And this is the family tree of the Russian royal family. And Marie, who was Queen Marie's mother, was the only daughter of Alexander II and his wife, Marie. This is Tsar Alexander II of Russia with his family. And young Princess Maria Alexandrovna with her father, Tsar Alexander II. And this was Princess Maria Alexandrovna on her wedding day on the 23rd of January, 1874 at the Winter Palace. Marie was the daughter of the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh. Here are the newlyweds, the Duchess Maria Alexandrovna and Duke Alfred of Edinburgh with Tsar Alexander II, and Marie's brother Alexei Alexandrovich, Grand Duke of Russia. This is an official photograph of the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh. And now a little bit of background regarding Romania. Romania was this white outlined portion at the time Princess Marie arrived. So it was quite small. It has since more than doubled in size after the First World War with the help of Queen Marie. Prince Karl of Hohenzollern-Sigmaringen was invited to come to Romania in 1866 to be installed on the Romanian throne, and he Romanized his name to Carol, and declared himself king in May 1881. He was married to Princess Elizabeth of Wied in 1869. They had one daughter, Maria, born in 1871, who died when she was 3 years old, leaving the princedom without any heir. Now, what is very interesting about Elizabeth of Wied was that at one point she was being considered by Queen Victoria as future wife of Queen Marie's father, but Queen Marie's father did not like Elizabeth very much, and so Elizabeth married Prince Carol and became the first queen of Romania. Leopold, who was the Prince of Hohenzollern, brother of Prince Karl of Romania, renounced his right to the Romanian throne in favor of his sons, and his eldest son, William, did not want to become Prince of Romania. So this responsibility fell in 1886 to Prince Ferdinand, nephew of the German-born Romanian king, Carol, and he would wait until 1886 to ascend to the throne. And in this time, he had to find a wife and carry on the line of succession. This is Eastwell Park, which is the birthplace of Marie Alexandra Victoria, as Princess Marie was baptized. This is a birth announcement that was published in the Times of London. And this is the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh with their eldest daughter, Marie Alexandra Victoria, who was Princess of Edinburgh, also known as Missy. Young Marie. Here she is with her brother and 2 sisters. Marie was a great reader. And here she is with her father and her brother. The Edinburgh children at play with their cousins. A portrait painted of the Duke and Duchess with their 2 eldest children. And here is Marie holding a picture of her paternal grandmother, Queen Victoria. Marie is on the left with 2 of her sisters. And this is Prince Ferdinand Victor Albert Meinrad of Hohenzollern Sigmaringen, around the same age as the previous picture with Marie. This is her whole family. Here's Marie playing in a play with her sister, a play called The Vision. And this is a photograph that was taken in Malta. So Princess Marie's father was posted to Malta with the British Royal Navy. And between 1888 and 89. And it was here that she spent much time with her cousin, Prince George of Wales, who was to become King George V. Here's another photograph of the whole family with Prince George on the far right, and Marie sitting to her father's left. Here's a picture of the two cousins. George was very taken with Marie and would very much have liked to have married her, but Marie's mother was not very keen on her daughter marrying a British subject. So Marie became the wife of Crown Prince Ferdinand of Romania. Here's a picture taken at about the time that she became engaged to Ferdinand. And this is their engagement photograph in 1882. This is a photograph of their wedding, or rather a picture drawn of their wedding at Sigmaringen in Germany on January the 10th, 1893. Here's a drawing of their wedding. And here's the beautiful bride. The newlywed couple on the right, they're on skates, ice skates. So it's always been a picture that I've enjoyed seeing. Somehow makes them a little bit more human to see the future king and queen on ice skates. And on the left is a very pregnant Marie, Princess Marie, and the man that is coming towards her in the front is Tsar Nicholas of Russia, who was her first cousin. Here are the princess and prince with their first child, Carol, born on the 15th of October, 1893. And here's Marie with her two oldest children, Carol and Elisabetta. And the first four children. The photograph in the right shows King Carol I and his wife Elizabeth as well. And these are the last two children on the right, Ileana and Mircea. Mircea unfortunately died during World War I of typhus. So they had 6 children and 5 of them survived. Here's King Carol I and his wife, Queen Elisabetta. And Carol died at the end of 1914 when Ferdinand and Marie became king and queen of Romania. Horseback riding was one of Queen Marie's great loves, and she was very good at it. Here they are together, the king and queen. And this was the coronation, which happened some years after they ascended the throne on the 15th of October, 1922. Here's King Ferdinand with his first grandson, Prince Michael. Prince Michael passed away a number of years ago. Here's the official painting that was done of Queen Marie. And some of the photographs showing her in different outfits. This one, a classical Romanian outfit. Another one in a classical Romanian outfit. This photograph taken at Castle Bran in central Romania, which is a beautiful castle. And here Queen Marie is shown with some orphans. And here with gypsies, a persecuted minority in Romania. Here she's greeted by the elders of one of the towns that she was visiting. And this is a photograph of her tending to one of the war's wounded during World War I. She and her children offered great services at great personal danger because of widespread typhus. Queen Marie was responsible for lobbying on behalf of the Romanian government at the Paris Peace Conference at the conclusion of World War I. And here she's shown with the French president, and she is the one who is responsible for the country, the Romanian country, to be enlarged by more than half to comprise the whole territory of Transylvania. Here's a later photograph of Marie with her husband, the king. And here's a beautiful photograph of Marie and her cousin George, who, as I mentioned earlier, she got to know very well in Malta, with their spouses, Ferdinand and Queen Mary. This is Queen Marie's driver's license. I think it's interesting that she has a photograph of herself with a crown on her driver's license. And here is the christening of their grandchild, Peter, who later became king of Yugoslavia. His father was King Alexander, who was assassinated in Marseille, who was married to Queen Marie and King Ferdinand's daughter, also known as Marie. And on the right are the Duke and Duchess of York, later to become King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, who are the parents of the current Queen Elizabeth of Great Britain. This is one of the last photographs taken of King Ferdinand before his passing. And this is his coffin being carried out of Peleș Castle to be taken to Curtea de Argeș, where all of the royals are buried. Queen Marie and her daughter leaning over the balcony as the procession is removing the casket from Pelishore Castle. All of the family boarding the train. Now comes the connection of the Queen with the Baha'i faith. This photograph, for those who are not Baha'is, is a photograph of Abdul Baha, who was the head of the Baha'i faith at the time. He is the son of the Prophet founder of the Baha'i faith. And he wrote a letter to Martha Root, an American Baha'i, who was a journalist. And this letter was dated 10 January 1919. And he says, "It is my hope from the blessings of His Holiness Baha'u'llah, my hope from the blessings of His Holiness Baha'u'llah is that thou mayest forget rest and composure, and like unto a swift flying bird, thou mayest reproduce the melody of the kingdom and engage in songs and music in the best of tunes. All ears are alert for the summons to the most great peace. It is therefore better for thee to travel now around the world, if this is conveniently possible, and roar out the call of the divine kingdom. Thou shalt witness great results and extraordinary confirmations." So Abdul Baha is assuring Martha Root that if she does arise to travel and to spread the Baha'i teachings, she will have great results and extraordinary confirmations. This is a passport photograph of Martha Root. And just to give you an idea of her travels, she traveled to most of the countries in the world at the time. And here, for example, she is in Australia, here in Iraq, here in Germany. And for those of you who may have known Hand of the Cause Grossmann, here he is with his wife in Germany. A photograph of Martha Root in Tabriz, Iran, and in Tehran, Iran. So you notice that the men and women at that time would meet separately. So here the photograph is with Martha Root and all the men, and the previous one was Martha Root with the women. Marcia Gale, who was a friend of Martha Root's, described a little bit of what she went through. And she says in a book written about her, "And so on and on she traveled, not young or strong, not beautiful, not rich, alone, and more than once in terrible danger, on and on for 20 years. She had begun these journeys in response to Abdul Baha's mandate to America, issued in his tablets of the divine plan. That was 1919. She was the first to arise, and she carried on with her work until, far from home, she stumbled and fell in her tracks. She died in Hawaii and is buried in that country." Here's Martha Root in Japan. And here she is in Egypt. And I'm very, very happy that Mona Grieser is attending this presentation. Her father is to Martha's right, a very, very dear man, Aziz Yazdi, whom some of you may have known here as a young man. And this is a picture of Martha in India, a picture of Martha in Bulgaria, and we have a friend here attending this presentation who pioneered to Bulgaria, Marion. And here she is in the Holy Land. Baha'u'llah, as I mentioned at the beginning, addressed tablets to all of the kings and rulers. And in one of them, which is published in his most holy book entitled the Kitab-i Aqdas, he says, "How great the blessedness that awaiteth the king who will arise to aid my cause in my kingdom, who will detach himself from all else but me. Such a king is numbered with the companions of the crimson ark, the ark which God hath prepared for the people of Baha. All must glorify his name, must reverence his station, and aid him to unlock the cities with the keys of my name, the omnipotent protector of all that inhabit the visible and invisible kingdoms. Such a king is the very eye of mankind, the luminous ornament on the brow of creation, the fountainhead of blessings unto the whole world. Offer up, O people of Baha, your substance, nay, your very lives, for his assistance." Abdul Baha was followed as head of the Baha'i faith by Shoghi Effendi, the grandson of Abdul Baha. His wife, Ruhiya Rabbani, wrote the following: "From the inception of Shoghi Effendi's ministry, she," meaning Martha Root, "not only turned her loving heart to him, but constantly sought his advice as to her plans. It would not be exaggerating to say they had a partnership in all her undertakings, marked by a mutual love and confidence all too rare in the harassed life of the guardian. They kept in close touch, a flow of letters and cables apprising him of her plans, her needs, her victories, her requests for guidance, and his unfailing answers giving encouragement and advice. She turned to him at all times, unhesitatingly making requests of him which she felt were in the interests of the faith. The guardian was well aware of both the purity of her motives and her good judgment, and almost invariably acceded to these requests, which ranged from letters of encouragement to individuals, to cabled messages to figures of great prominence. Love begets love. Martha's great love for Shoghi Effendi called forth his love and his responses, the way the capacity of a diamond to reflect light captures its rays and casts them back brilliantly. She went on to say, Martha Root was firmly convinced that in her possession was the most priceless gem the world had ever seen, the message of Baha'u'llah. She believed that in showing this gem and offering it to anyone, king or peasant, she was conferring the greatest bounty upon him he could ever receive. It was this proud conviction that enabled her, a woman of no wealth or social prestige, plain, dowdily dressed, and neither a great scholar nor an outstanding intellectual, to meet more kings, queens, princes and princesses, presidents and men of distinction, fame and prominence, and tell them about the Baha'i faith than any other Baha'i in the history of this cause has ever done. And then she says, Shoghi Effendi used to remark that out of his sufferings, something always seemed to be born. He would go through these ordeals by fire, for indeed he seemed to fairly burn with suffering, and then some rain from heaven in the form of good news would shower upon him and help to revive him. This was 1926. In a letter of Martha Root to Ella Goodall Cooper on the 19th of February, Martha says, next, Bucharest. The American minister said I could not see the Queen Marie of Romania, but I wrote her a letter and sent her Abdul Baha's picture and Dr. Esselmont's book, Baha'u'llah and the New Era. Anybody interested in reading an introductory book about the Baha'i faith? This book is a wonderful book and still available. This is what the Queen looked like when Martha met her for the first time in 1926. And after receiving the book, Queen Marie wrote for the National Syndicate of North American newspapers and recommended this book. And I'll just read the first paragraph. A woman brought me the other day a book. I spell it with a capital letter because it is a glorious book of love and goodness, strength and beauty. She gave it to me because she had learned I was in grief and sadness and wanted to help. She put it into my hands saying, "You seem to live up to his teachings." And when I opened the book, I saw it was the word of Abdul Baha, prophet of love and kindness, and of his father, the great teacher of international goodwill and understanding, of a religion which links all creeds. This is from Queen Marie's diary. On Sunday, February 21st, 1926, written at Kotrachen Palace, she says, went to English church with Ileana, but it was what I would call a poor service. I really pray better at home with my Baha'u'llah books and teachings, which have brought me such a message lately. The message, in fact, that I have always been waiting for. It has become a joy and comfort to me, and has at last brought God quite near. For the first time, I have felt religion. Every principle of Baha'u'llah is acceptable to me, understandable, of greatest and perfect help. All my hazy desires and thoughts have been suddenly made concrete by this teaching. My whole soul answers, it feels it to be the teaching. I am also giving it to Ileana, for she too is a great searcher and astonishingly open and waiting for truth. She also writes a letter to her friend, Loie Fuller, saying, lately a great hope has come to me from one Abdul Baha. I have found in his and his father Baha'u'llah's message of faith all my yearning for real religion satisfied. If you ever hear of Baha'is or of the Baha'i movement, which is known in America, you will know what it is, what I mean. These books have strengthened me beyond belief, and I am now ready to die any day full of hope. But I pray God not to take me away yet, for I still have a lot of work to do. This is part of the letter that Queen Marie addressed to Shoghi Effendi. And when Shoghi Effendi learned from Martha Root about her meeting with the Queen, he wrote and said, I am thrilled by your account about the Queen. In 1930, March 1930, Queen Marie and Princess Ileana went on a trip to the Middle East. Shoghi Effendi sent a telegram to the Queen, Her Majesty the Dowager Queen Marie of Romania, aboard Mayflower Aswan. Family of Abdul Baha, join me in renewing the expression of our loving and heartfelt invitation to your gracious Majesty and Her Royal Highness Princess Ileana to visit his home in Haifa. Your Majesty's acceptance to visit Baha'u'llah's shrine and prison city of Akka will, apart from its historic significance, be a source of immeasurable strength, joy, and hope to the silent sufferers of the faith throughout the East. Our fondest love, prayers, and best wishes for your Majesty's happiness and welfare. Queen Marie fully intended to visit Shoghi Effendi and the Greatest Holy Leaf, his aunt, and stay a night and visit the shrines of the Bab, Baha'u'llah, and Abdul Baha, but she and Ileana were prevented from doing this by the governments of Romania and Great Britain. Here is a photograph of the guardian of the Baha'i faith, Shoghi Effendi, and his aunt, the daughter of Baha'u'llah. And this telegram was sent by the Romanian minister in Cairo, Philip Lahovari, to Shoghi Effendi, saying Her Majesty regrets that not passing through Palestine, she will not be able to visit you. Unfortunately, this was not true because Queen Marie did sail into Haifa. She must have seen the shrine of the Bab standing on Mount Carmel. She was put in a car and driven directly to what was then known as Transjordan. So she was actually in Palestine. Here's a photograph of her and Princess Ileana during their visit in Egypt. Here they are visiting the Sphinx. And one episode in the life of the Queen, which is very interesting, is that she was friends as a child with a woman by the name of Lillian Barron, who became Lillian McNeil. And Lillian and the Queen met in Malta, where both of their fathers were stationed with the British Army. British Navy, I believe. And they didn't see each other for many years. And in 1935, Lillian wrote to Queen Marie to tell her that she and her husband were living at the mansion of Mazrae. They had rented it after her husband retired from the British military. And Marie writes to Lillian and says, "Dear little Lillian, it was indeed nice to hear from you and to think that you are, of all things, living in Haifa and are, like I am, a follower of the Baha'i teachings. And we had planned, Ileana, my youngest daughter, and I, to visit the holy graves. Shoghi Effendi was expecting me. Then there were political intrigues. It was after the death of my husband, and people were being nasty with me. And I had, under pressure, to give it up. And it was a great sorrow to me for more reasons than one. Yes, certainly it interests me that you are living in that special house. The teachers so loved flowers, and being English, I can imagine what a lovely garden you have made in that Eastern climate. With much love, Marie, please give Shoghi Effendi a warm greeting from me." This is an appreciation that Marie wrote, addressing it to Shoghi Effendi for publication in one of the Baha'i World volumes. Here is an appreciation she wrote in 1934. The Baha'i teaching brings peace to the soul and hope to the heart. To those in search of assurance, the words of the Father are as a fountain in the desert after long wandering. And then in 1936, more than ever today, when the world is facing such a crisis of bewilderment and unrest, must we stand firm in faith, seeking that which binds together instead of tearing asunder. To those searching for light, the Baha'i teachings offer a star which will lead them to deeper understanding, to assurance, peace, and goodwill with all men. This was one of the last photographs of the Queen before her passing. And another. And this was her funeral in 1938. She is buried in this church in a place called Curtea de Argeș, next to her husband, King Ferdinand. And I would like to end this presentation with a message that was addressed by Queen Marie's great-granddaughter, Princess Helen, to the Baha'is of the United Kingdom on the occasion of the the centenary of the visit of Abdul Baha to the United Kingdom. And Princess Helen says, "For me, the message of this great faith is as important today as it has always been. In an increasingly secular society where market forces, rampant consumerism, and selfishness are considered virtuous, the Baha'i faith offers an alternative way of living rooted in the propagation of justice, unity, and the establishing of peace to bring about prosperity and collective well-being. Historically, messengers of such radicalism have been considered subversives. This seems to have been true of Abdul Baha, who, because of his deep faith in God's goodness and guidance, spent most of his life in exile. Lesser men would have become bitter separated from their homeland, but that was not so of Abdu'l-Baha. He chose a different path and became a great ambassador of peace and justice, and a welcome guest among all peoples of goodwill and faith. Such people are unique, inspirational, and challenging, and we need to hear their messages of hope. She wrote this in September 2011. And the portrait of Queen Marie hangs on Mount Carmel in the seat of the Universal House of Justice, the current head of the Baha'i faith. This is the entranceway to the council chamber of that international body. And she is being honored here as the first reigning monarch to have accepted the faith of Baha'u'llah. And next to this portrait is the portrait of the Maliatoa, Tanum Afili III of Samoa, who was the second reigning monarch to accept the message of Baha'u'llah. So I hope that I was able to share this very fascinating story with you in a brief manner. I see that I managed to keep within 1 hour. If anybody has any questions, I would be happy to answer them. So let me see if I can I'm not sure if I can unmute you, because at one point, let me see. I may be able to unmute. You. I don't want to unmute everybody, because then the background noise becomes a little bit difficult. So I tell you what, perhaps the easiest way to do this would be if you just write your name in the chat, and then I can unmute you. Or you can ask the question in the chat. So somebody has asked if Ileana accepted the Baha'i faith. Ileana was the youngest daughter of Queen Marie. She was very interested in the faith at the same time as her mother. But for a variety of reasons, not least perhaps the fact that she was young and very involved with Christian organizations such as the Girl Guides. Her marriage, subsequent marriage to Anton of Habsburg, with whom she lived in Austria, she actually went on to become a Christian scientist for some years. And then when she moved to the United States, she decided that she would go back to being an Orthodox Christian, and she founded a monastery in Pennsylvania, became its mother superior for a number of years, and that's also where she passed away. Somebody has asked why the government agents prevented her from visiting the shrines. Well, you know, I mean, I don't think anybody would necessarily have written down why they wouldn't let her do it, or if they did write it down, it was probably it's probably in government papers. But I would imagine that they did not want the Queen to make such a public statement, because if she had visited the shrine of Baha'u'llah, that would have been covered by many, many newspapers, and that really would have sealed officially, let us say, her acceptance of the message of Baha'u'llah. So that was my understanding from everything that I read. But besides what I read to you, there were a number of other letters that she wrote that expressed how very, very sorry she was that she was not able to pay her respects to the shrines. Nason, my good friend Nason, has two questions. What is the general view of the Romanian people today about their queen? And the second, what is the reason that inspired you to do this lifetime research? So when I arrived in Romania in 1990 for a visit, and then in 1991 to spend a year, which turned into 25 years, I would say that many Romanians didn't know much about Queen Marie. The communists had done a very effective job of erasing a lot of history. And so the Romanian people didn't really know much about her. The older people who had known, who had lived during the time of the monarchy. So this ended officially in around the time of the Second World War, when then King Michael, who was the grandson of Queen Marie, was exiled. They would have known about Marie, and many of the people that I spoke to were very fond of her, appreciated her for the many services that she offered to her country. But what is very interesting is that there's a Baha'i who moved to Romania as a young 17-year-old to study medicine. His name is Vara Enayati. And he has managed over the years that he has been living to really make the name of Queen Marie a household name, because he established a medical network. And at one point, he, with the permission of the royal family, he renamed it the Queen Marie Network, private network, private health network. So, you know, people are always saying, I'm going to Queen Marie health clinic, and there are signs everywhere, big signs all over Bucharest, especially with her name. So that was a great service. And then to answer your second question, Nason, I've actually written a very brief description of how I came about to do this research about Queen Marie. It's a bit of a long story, so I can share that with anybody who would like, and so that I don't take the time of everybody now. So Eric has asked, was she required to be a member of a state church while her husband was alive? Oh, that's interesting. So yes and no. Her children, Ferdinand and Marie's children, based on the Constitution, had to be baptized in the Orthodox Church. But Marie was baptized in the Anglican Church, and her husband was baptized in the Catholic Church. In fact, Ferdinand was excommunicated for some years by the Catholic Church because he allowed his children to be baptized in the Orthodox Church, and it was something that made him very, very sad. But Marie did not, was not required, and neither was Ferdinand to change their religion based on the Constitution, because that applied only to later to their children. I'm just trying to see if there are any other questions. Okay, that seems to be all. And I am now sharing the official website. Leslie shared the website of the United States, so I'm sharing the website of the Baha'i World Center, which is Baha'i.org, where you can find out a lot of information about the Baha'i faith. And somebody has asked if I will give access to the presentation on YouTube. Yes, I will definitely do that. And so unless there are any other questions, I don't want to keep anybody because we're already 8 minutes over the hour. I'm very, very happy that I was with you all. It's thrilling. There are people from so many different countries. Many of you are very dear friends. And I can recommend the book. The first book is Her Eternal Crown, Queen Marie of Romania and the Baha'i Faith. And if you look in the chat, there is a link to that. It was posted by Carmel Moman, who is working with George Ronald, the publisher of that book. And then this is the abridged version, which came out in Romanian, and it's in the English title will be Queen Marie, an Instrument in Greater Hands. So it's a much thinner book. And it should, as I said, become available in the next few months, probably initially as an ebook, and then eventually maybe print on request or something. So I would really highly recommend you reading this book. I think it's very important for the Baha'is to know about Queen Marie's station. It's a unique station, and I always tell my Romanian friends, you know, Romania doesn't have a very good reputation in the world for a number of reasons. Some of them perhaps legitimate, others not so much, that they will always have the distinction of having the first crowned head to accept the message of Baha'u'llah, and that is really an amazing distinction. So without further ado, I will end this presentation, and I am very happy that you were all with me today. and just read the book and find out all of the information that I wasn't able to present here, and lovely to see all of you. Bye-bye. Much love to you all.